Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Don't Praise the Machine, the Survivor's Guide to the Cultural Apocalypse. And in today's episode, we're talking about 1990s icon Pamela Anderson, the Baywatch blonde bombshell whose leaked sex tape effectively wrote the playbook that Kim Kardashian would later follow to monopolize the world's attention, who leaned in to plastic surgery when it was still an unusual act and not a Tuesday, who had the celebrity machine conquered before we even knew what dial-up modem sounded like. And yet, here she is in 2026, rebranded as a no-makeup Earth mother who reads Jung and The Artist's Way, staging a fake romance with Liam Neeson to sell Naked Gun tickets, and now doing a speaking tour of Australia as a newly revealed closet intellectual. Today we explore her masterful pivot, which has recaptured the attention of the world at 58 years old. We're breaking down the Pamverse today, but I cannot do it alone. I'm going to need the help of a man whose research this week required him to reach deep under his mattress and perform a delicate archaeological excavation of some high-gloss magazines from his tortured adolescence. John, I respect the commitment to the primary sources, and I want to know if you are ready to sprint across the sand towards me in your red one-piece swimsuit with the iconic plastic flotation device to save me from the waves of the cultural apocalypse today.
That's beautifully put. Don't you worry. It's gonna be all right.
Don't you worry, baby, have you I'll be there. I'll be there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Al. I'm very excited to be in Australia this week because there's a few, it's almost as though it's life imitating cast in Australia because we've got Pamela doing the speaking tour. We've got looks maxing champion Clavicular having a suspected drug overdose.
That's right.
We've got Harry and Meghan. So all the kind of the Fotzes, as I call them, the friends of the show, are converging in on the eastern states of Australia, and I love it. And Pamela's visit prompted a bit of reflection because I've been following her on Instagram for a little while, and I've been kind of taking an interest sporadically in this, what I call the Pam-essence that she's enjoying at the moment. And I'll come into kind of how that started and how it's going. But, so I thought maybe there's something there. And the deeper I dug, the more I felt that we were dealing with someone who is kind of the Forrest Gump of the cultural apocalypse. She never seems to be in control of events. She always seems to be unwitting and peripheral, and yet she is pivotal in various milestones along the way of the kind of formation of modern celebrity and self-branding and marketing and how we relate to celebrity culture and the kinds of tropes that people in that world tend to fit into. So we'll kind of go through some of that, and I think partly what fascinates me is just the unlikeliness of her being this person who now occupies a position as a kind of paragon personification of authenticity and clean living and slow living and all the things that you wouldn't necessarily have thought of as you were downloading JPEGs of her on a bulletin board in 1994 when she was flitting between relationships with Tommy Lee and Bret Michaels from Poison.
She loved rock stars.
Yeah, she does.
The blonde bombshell on the arm of a rock star. I hadn't thought of her until a couple of years ago at Paris Fashion Week. She stepped out without makeup on and somebody said, "Oh, you got to check the internet.
Yeah.
Pamela Anderson's not wearing makeup." And I just scratched my head like Homer Simpson when he woke up on the golf course. I just went, "What? Pamela Anderson?
What golf course?" That's so good.
Get off the course, you bum.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was a kind of she's cropped up. She gave a few intimations in the years leading up to that she might be occupying a different space in the zeitgeist. So, for example, in in the years following the WikiLeaks scandal, when Julian Assange was in Belmarsh prison trying to fight extradition to the US, she somehow struck up a relationship with Julian. And I don't know if you remember this, but she visited him. She might have even visited him when he was in the embassy in London. And then
I love also, if anybody was on the internet in the 90s looking at Pamela Anderson, it was Julian Assange.
Totally. Yeah. He would have been like, man, this is all my adolescent dreams coming true. I've become a hacker who's got the hot blonde girl. Like, far out. What are the odds?
You would have been able to believe it.
It's never happened to anyone.
You would have been able.
Yeah, it's true. All my heroic hacking got the sexy bimbo. And so she went and saw him in prison and came out and said it's terrible what's happened to him, and WikiLeaks has really benefited all of us and we should be standing up for him. She wrote a letter to our then Prime Minister Scott Morrison, who was kind of allowing Assange to sort of languish overseas without being seen to do very much about it, and said you need to get on and do more about it. And she's since advocated for on his behalf to Trump.
I love Scott Morrison just getting a letter, just scratching his head, going, Pamela Anderson,
yeah, exactly, from Baywatch, and she was daring him to debate her about the WikiLeaks issue, which understandably I think he just found kind of amusing and weird. And anyway, so she did that. And then she wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal with your friend and mine, Shmuley Botayek, about
Shmuley Botayek,
and they wrote about the evils of porn, and which is an interesting arc in itself for somebody who is, I think, the single most photographed person in Playboy magazine's history.
Yeah,
and she's been the cover girl for Playboy many times, but she obviously had decided by about the 2010s that wasn't who she wanted to be, and her and Shmuley went to my old hangout, the Oxford Union, to have a talk about the evils of pornography, which is an odd pairing. But then, of course, that was sort of occasional weird blips in the headlines, but now she's well and truly. She's got kind of Brendan Fraser comeback energy now. She started this process in 2022 with a reality show called Pamela's Garden of Eden, about her moving back to her kind of her childhood home. I think it was a home originally owned by her grandparents, and she's got kind of Finnish ancestry, so she played up that. She played up her sort of Nordic vibes, had a garden there, had sort of grew herbs and vegetables, and wore flowing dresses and talked about folklore and philosophy and poetry. In that documentary or reality TV series, and that really was the kind of watershed moment in her rebranding. Then she appeared, as you said, Paris Fashion Week 2023, no makeup. And everyone said, isn't that brave? Then she was in 2024 in The Last Showgirl, which was a kind of a sort of slightly warts and all look at a kind of aging beauty, I suppose, and sort of a tragicomic sort of depiction, although I haven't seen it, but that's my impression of what it is. And that leads us to, her launching her skincare line, talking about the benefits of a vegan diet, having a cooking show where she shows you all these things that she's cooking from her garden. And I think this quote from Vogue Scandinavia in a late 2025 article really talks to the characteristics of modern day Pamela Anderson. It says, begins by talking about how her Finnish grandfather introduced her to poetry and folklore and the land, and taught her apparently to speak Finnish as a child. And then it says, Bergman and Pialat are not the only cultural touchstones Anderson brings up as we talk. She casually peppers our chat with other directors' names, like they're old friends around a dinner table. Fellini, Godard, Moreau, Kiarostami, Lynch, offered with admiration, not pretension. She quotes Dostoevsky and adores Gertrude Stein. This is the Anderson that people are only now catching up to, a woman whose intellect and curiosity runs deeper than anyone gave her credit for. After all, who decided that the bombshell sprinting along Californian sand in slow motion couldn't also be well versed on Bergman's lens or Stein's syntax? And yeah, I mean, it's fascinating that she's managed to pivot from somebody who kind of personified hedonistic airheadedness and then has now become its exact obverse, you know, this person who personifies the kind of effortless ease with which she sort of traverses philosophy and clean living and, you know, unbothered slow life in her Vancouver estate. And she made a documentary about herself. She released a memoir, which she's done before, but not for quite a long time. And she's off and running now doing this speaking tour in Australia. And I'll just give you a flavor of that from the description I found on ticketex.com, which says, it's a world-exclusive event where Pamela takes to the stage for an intimate conversation exploring reinvention, resilience, and the beauty of second acts. A defining figure in the 90s, Pamela has re-emerged as a modern cultural icon after the release of her best-selling memoir, Love, Pamela, and the critically acclaimed Netflix documentary, Pamela, A Love Story, which I think one of her sons produced. Her recent return to acting has been met with widespread praise, highlighted by Golden Globe and SAG Award nominations for her lead role in The Last Showgirl and box office success with The Naked Gun. Beyond Hollywood, Pamela's decision to embrace a makeup-free public presence has cemented her as a symbol of authenticity, challenging expectations of what it means to be a woman in the public eye. From your seat, experience a rare opportunity to hear Pamela speak candidly about the journey to discovering your true north. And I was recently listening to the radio in an Uber, as I sometimes do, and they were running a competition selling tickets to this show. And this girl won a ticket. She was probably like 19 or something. And she was so thrilled to be going to see Pamela Anderson. And I just thought, man, this is weird. For people who've lived through 90s Pamela Anderson, this is quite hard to get your head around that someone of this girl's vintage and what she's interested in seeing and listening to, that she kind of views Pamela as like she's going to see a kind of lifestyle guru, you know. That's, you just think, man, how did we get here? So what I thought I'd do is, having given you a bit of a potted sense of the Pamaissance, is try and trace how we got here, looking at Pamela in the 90s. You can share some of your recollections, of course, on some of these, which I'd forgotten, some which I remember, like the Baywatch appearances. And we can talk about maybe some of the ways in which Pamela has been at the forefront of these trends, things like unashamed plastic surgery, things like the idea of famous for being famous, the sex tape, etc. So are you familiar with how she got her start as a celebrity?
No, I sort of remember, John, back in the day that she was in Baywatch. That was how everybody became familiar with her, that television show. For any of our younger listeners and viewers, Baywatch was a drama about a bunch of lifeguards in what I assume was California. And they, you know, there was a group of beautiful young lifeguards and they had adventures and they had interpersonal relationships while they were trying to keep the beaches safe.
Exactly.
And she looked great in a swimsuit.
She did.
And she was blonde and she had big boobs. And for a long time, that's what anybody really knew about her or thought about her, was she was just like a classic kind of sexy blonde. And she was every boy's dream girlfriend. And then, you know, she was doing the occasional Playboy magazine back then, and all the boys would want to get their hands on those magazines. And then maybe I remember that there was then some articles or some magazines that looked at how she got her start. But no, how did she become the Pamela Anderson that we knew and loved from the beaches of California?
It's an interesting, I mean, the fact that she rose to fame in this particular way is itself is indicative or illustrative of how she anticipates modern celebrity in a weird way. So she much like the Kiss Cam couple at the Coldplay concert, or a bit like the sort of Hawk Tour girl, it's got that kind of vibe to it. So she was working as a fitness instructor, living in Canada. She went to a Canadian Football League game in Vancouver, and she was...
So she's Canadian?
She's Canadian, yeah, that's right.
No way, I never knew.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that she's living on Vancouver Island now. It makes sense.
Yeah, that's right.
So she home, but I never put it together. What?
She came from Canada. She went to this game. Obviously, this was in the 1980s, so she was young, was unknown, was a kind of sexy young fitness instructor. She was wearing a Labatt's beer T-shirt at this game, and then she was picked up by the Jumbotron at the Canadian Football League game, and everyone was like, "Man, who is this sexy blonde bombshell wearing a Labatt's beer T-shirt?" And her enterprising boyfriend at the time then got her to pose in a photo shoot and released made a poster of her, basically. This is a kind of different pre-internet world that they lived in. And she became a kind of viral celebrity in the days before that was really a thing. You know, this was 1989, so it's pretty early days. And in that same year, she gets flown over to pose as a cover girl for Playboy. And that was her kind of early break, was just by chance being at this game, being on the Jumbotron, being a kind of hot viral sensation, and then becoming a Playboy model in 1989. And following year, she's Playmate of the Month, and only then does she get her breasts enhanced. And she's obviously from the outset quite open about that, because, you know, it's not a subtle job. She gets them 34D. Later she goes, I'll get them 34 double D, a classic size. And the implant of choice for many people on that trajectory. Although these days, I don't know, maybe tastes have changed. You got to go like 34 triple H or something because people are desensitized. But she's since been on more Playboy covers than any other model. And she was in, as you say, CJ Parker in Baywatch from 1992 to 1997, which is where she kind of shifted from just a pretty face to being a potential actor. Although really her early acting roles were not very substantial. She was CJ Parker in Baywatch, I think, wasn't a particularly complex three-dimensional character. She was also, of course, as you will know, I know you're a big fan and follower of Tim Allen's career. She was the original Tool Time girl in Home Improvement. So, you know, he used to do these segments because it was, as you know, it was like a show within a show. He was the sort of presenter of Tool Time with Tim, with whatever his name, I think it was Tim on the show. And she would be the kind of assistant who was carrying a drill, and him and his offsider, that bearded guy, would make sexist remarks about her holding the drill, and everyone loved that because it was the 90s. Then she's in these movies like 1994 Raw Justice and 1996 Barbed Wire, which to me...
Yeah, Barbed Wire, I remember.
To me, it's like bang in the middle of the 90s. This is, though, the epicenter of the kind of movie that as a teenage boy in the 90s, you'd see a suggestive ad for it. You'd make a mental note of when it was on. You'd try to kind of furtively stay up until that time, or maybe you'd furtively set the VCR to record and then go to bed knowing that you were going to be able to wake up and watch Barbed Wire. And that's definitely what I was up to in those days. And they were basically kind of erotic thrillers. She was also in something else I remember called Snapdragon, which was very silly. I mean, they were all very kind of schlocky, you know, Vaseline on the lens sort of B movies where she's in various states of undress and kind of running around occasionally with a gun or whatever. And she got the classic barbed wire tattoo while she was filming barbed wire, which was also a very kind of iconically 90s tat, the barbed wire around the arm. Although she has since had that removed, of course, because it's very much not in keeping with her rebrand. And yeah, these were the kinds of movies that she was in and the kinds of television programs that she was in at that time. And I guess because she came to symbolize, you know, she was a bit like a kind of less off the rails Anna Nicole Smith or something. She came to symbolize the sort of classic platinum blonde and, you know, slotted into various roles, just rehashing that. So she's in, you know, music videos with Motley Crue, which is how she got involved with Tommy Lee, I think. She was in the Borat movie. And I think,
was she?
Apparently, I don't think I ever bothered to watch the Borat movie, but I think Borat gets obsessed with her and plans to abduct and wed her.
That's right.
That's right. That's the idea. And of course, during this time, she marries Tommy Lee, the first of her 5 marriages. They'd know
5.
Yeah, 5 marriages. Twice she married the same person. I'll come to that in a moment. But she marries Tommy Lee. They met. They knew each other for 4 days, and then they decided to get married. Which isn't something that a slow-living Earth mother would do, but she was very different in those days. And then she later admitted that she was sharing needles with Tommy. They were doing lots of drinking and drugs and carrying on. And she had hepatitis C for some time, although I think she's now cured of it, which is great. She marries Tommy Lee. They have a very tumultuous relationship and become this kind of iconic, a bit like a sort of forerunner to, you know, Amy Winehouse and Pete Doherty or something, like this sort of, you know, off the rails couple who are always sort of showing up and looking
enablers.
Exactly, enablers and
codependent enablers.
100%
is what my therapist always accuses me of being with. Whenever I say I got a brand new sweetheart, my therapist always says that's just a codependent enabler.
I'm going down to Camden to hang out with my new girlfriend and do smack. And then eventually, of course, inevitably, she and Tommy separate, but not before a sex tape is quote unquote stolen from the house, 1995, and it depicts them. I think there's a couple of different scenes, if you like. One of which they're on a lake together on a boat.
I remember the boat. I remember, as soon as there's sex tape, I remember grainy camcorder footage on like what looked like a houseboat or some sort of
like they've hired a boat and they're just whizzing around a lake, and they're both just kind of hanging out on the deck naked. And Tommy, I mean, Tommy is the classic sort of equivalent of 90s Pamela Anderson in that he's just this sort of good-natured moron who's always up for drugs and silliness. And so they film themselves banging, and the sex tape gets out and becomes this kind of early internet viral sensation. Lots of people's hard drives were corrupted by downloading Pam and Tommy from the wrong source and .move. And as you say, that was ahead of the curve. You know, that was before Kim Kardashian did it. It was before Paris Hilton did it. And by the time they'd done it, people were kind of familiar with this idea of the leaked sex tape because of, you might say, trailblazers like Pam and Tommy. And that whole episode was recently the subject of a biopic called Pam and Tommy, which I think was produced by, what's that guy's name? Seth Rogen.
It's true that before them, if you'd said to me leaked sex tape, I would go, what is that?
Yeah.
And you go, oh yeah, you know how things get leaked.
Yeah.
Like things that are meant to be private get leaked. And I go, yeah, but what do you mean? What do you mean? What's sex tape? And then somebody would have to explain to you, oh, they've filmed themselves having sex privately on a camcorder.
Yeah.
And then that's been leaked. And then from that day forward, you can just say leaked sex tape.
Exactly.
And you know that it's people that have filmed themselves having sex privately, and it's somehow got out.
And you know that, I mean, it came to be synonymous. I'm not sure that this was the case in their case or not. I don't think she really made money off it, but she probably got some, I mean, she got exposure, perhaps not of the kind she would have liked. But, you know, in the years following, people obviously mastered this as a way of achieving celebrity. They would deliberately engineer the kind of quote unquote leaking of sex tapes to arrest their flagging celebrity, etc., or maybe to create celebrity. You know, maybe they'd be with someone of higher status in the sex tape, and that's how they would get their Guernsey in Hollywood. Anyway, then she moves on to Kid Rock, as we all know, and he likewise is this kind of, you know, large living bozo in those days whose present career couldn't be more different from Vancouver Island era Pam. He's become a kind of, you know, somebody that if you want to be a right-wing populist, you might want to have him at your rally.
Yeah. He's like a Republican hero now.
He's off doing getting in the hot tub with his jeans on with RFK Jr. I think they were in the ice bath actually. So he's also kind of, I mean, you could probably do an episode on Kid Rock because he's an interesting figure.
Kid Rock and Shmuley Botaic episodes coming up, guys, if you want to stay tuned for those.
And I don't think I clocked this, but she was then with Rick Salomon, who you might vaguely know his name. He was a professional poker player, I think, but he was also famously responsible for the leaking of the Paris Hilton sex tape. So yeah, and this was after his this was before his relationship with Pamela Anderson. So it was almost as though, you know, you can imagine that's something they probably talked about when they went on a date was you've been in a sex tape and I've been in a sex tape, except Rick Salomon very cynically did this deliberately, I think, at the expense of an extremely young Paris Hilton, who only later relented and decided to cash in on this thing that he kind of fashioned into a DVD called One Night in Paris.
Yeah, I remember.
So he's a lovely man, and they married in Las Vegas, of course. She was the model in a magic show at Planet Hollywood at the time. Very something a very authentic person would be doing.
Yeah.
And they married at the Mirage. And then they separated, but then they got back together, and then they separated again. So she's had 2 marriages and divorces to Rick Salomon. Then I think she married a bodyguard, and then they divorced in 2022. And the only thing I'm aware of happening since then is this also very modern phenomenon of a possibly completely fabricated, I would say definitely completely fabricated relationship with Taken superstar Liam Neeson, who was her co-star in Naked Gun, which is again, so, you know, so far we've got, in my estimation, the sex tape. She's the kind of an early adopter of the sex tape. She's got breast enhancements and is happy to talk about them in a time when that wasn't really a thing. She's got a sort of a famous for being famous vibe that people like Kim K would perfect. Then in the more modern era, she's in this relationship with Liam Neeson where they are co-stars in the Naked Gun movie. And of course, the business of, you know, everyone's very familiar with the business of 2 people who are in a movie together, sitting down, talking about what did you like about this movie? Oh, it was funny, and I loved this, and I loved everyone who made it, and blah, blah, blah. Everyone's sick of that. So the thing to do now is to sort of pretend that something's happened on the tour that is worthy of news in itself. And
on the set or on the junket.
On the junket, exactly, yeah. In this case.
You say, I know that I'm Margot Robbie and I have a boyfriend, but actually I'm going to hint that I've fallen in love with my co-star because, boy, you're going to write about that.
Yeah, that's right. And that's exactly what Robbie and Elordi did, even though that she's happily married. They were like, can you just kind of vaguely insinuate that somehow the plot of Wuthering Heights led you to become obsessed with each other, just like your characters. And they did. And she and Liam Neeson, everyone was like, oh man, this is just what I want for both of them, because he's tragically widowed, of course. And
just like his Love Actually character.
Exactly, yeah. He was married to one of the kind of actors, I can't remember her name, but she's from the sort of Redgrave family of British actors. And she fell off some skis and died, and years ago. And he's been single since then, I think. But they met on the set of Naked Gun, and it was strongly implied that they were in a relationship and they were posing together, and all these kind of fawning articles shipping them as a couple and saying this is just what we needed to lift our spirits this year. And then people started saying, well, hang on, this is starting to seem like maybe they were just doing this on the junket and they never actually really were anything more than friends. And Pamela says, yeah, no, I would never do anything like that. I'm so authentic. And but then she describes it in this way, which is just total kind of squibbing. So she says, Liam and I were romantically involved for a short while, but only after we finished filming. She says they spent a, quote, intimate week together at his home in upstate New York. But then she clarified, I had my own room and our assistants both came and even family stopped by. So it's like, well, you were just hanging out then. That's not really a romantic week. And then she says that they went out to dinner at a tiny French restaurant in upstate New York where he introduced her as the future Mrs. Neeson, which she is proffering as evidence that they were romantically involved. Right. I mean, to me, I just think, well, you of all people know how to prove that you were, which is to release a sex tape of you and Liam Neeson. Why don't you do that? And then she talks about how
one night in Liam.
Yeah, exactly.
She's pegging Liam Neeson.
Exactly.
In the video.
Taken 3. Taken Innocence. Yeah, she's talking about how they tended rose bushes together and all this crap. And then, she kind of finishes by saying, well, we've got real feelings for each other as best friends. And everyone's like, you betrayed us. That's terrible, etc. And then, there's this thing, she's making sourdough starters. She's making anti-inflammatory vegan soups. She's on her way. It's got to be one of the greatest turnarounds in Hollywood history. And it's what amazes me is, I guess, I can't help but be slightly. I mean, initially I was watching these, Pamela Anderson in the Criterion closet, and she's saying, "Oh, I love this. I love the Seven Samurai, and I love Bergman films, and I love Dostoevsky." And I was kind of thinking, I don't know though. Do you is this just should I buy into this? She said this, if you can make bread and you have a garden, what else do you need? I mean, that's like something Epicurus would say that 2,000 years ago. And she's got this Substack where she'll quote people like Epicurus and, various poets, Rumi, and she might quote Plato here and there. And she talks about gratitude and, the life of the mind and things. And I have a lingering doubt as someone who wants to believe that a woman that I was very attracted to as a 14-year-old grew up to become somebody who I could be attracted to as a 43-year-old. But I just can't help but think, is this an elaborate kind of marketing machine ploy? And she's just a sort of, she's just gone from being the kind of platinum blonde that we all wanted in the 90s to the authentic Earth Mother that we all want in 2026. Maybe she's not really either of those things, and she's just happy to be stage managed. I don't know. What do you think?
I saw that she has her fingers in a lot of pies. So not only is she now getting acting work, because I saw this article that I read was suggesting that she'd moved back to the house that she grew up in on Vancouver Island, and she was very prepared to just settle down and she's going to wake up every morning and greet the sun, and nobody was ever going to see her again except the people that lived in her immediate vicinity. You know, that was going to be her life. And she was just going to, as you say, she had a sourdough starters and she said, hey, I used to be Pamela Anderson, but now I'm a different Pamela Anderson and nobody's ever going to see me again. And then they started offering me film roles and I had to take them. So I'm back. So she's in demand now for acting. Plus, I read that she acquired a skincare company that she's running now with her two sons. Plus, the article that I just read this morning, she just launched a furniture line.
Oh, wow.
Plus, she's doing speaking tours that you can pay money to go and see her. So she has many income streams. I'm sure I'm just scratching the surface of where her money's coming from. If she just wanted to, she could just do a Comic-Con and make a ton of money as well. Or just answering Baywatch
and
questions.
What was questions?
What was Hasselhoff really like? I don't know. Ask him. He's still around. And so
he hasn't successfully pivoted to guru status.
He needs to do the Hasselhoff pivot. I see him on a lot of advertisements in Germany because he's quite famous here still because, you know, he was a pop star. With hits in Germany and famously performed I've Been Looking for Freedom in front of the Berlin Wall as it crumbled in 1989. And so he's kicking around on my TV set. But I'm just trying to think also is like, it seems to be, it's a bit of a harder you can kind of rebrand as like I'm trying to think if I'm thinking there's a lot of aging female celebrities who go, okay, I'm going to do wellness. So I'm thinking Paltrow with Goop. I'm thinking Pam Anderson and there's a few others that we've spoken about during the history of the show. And I'm just trying to think if there's like what the male equivalent is where you become a bit of an aging male actor. Maybe they would argue, maybe people would argue, oh, well, men can still act as they get older because, the film and TV market still values them even though they start getting a few wrinkles, whereas that's not sometimes as much of an option for older women as they age. And so they need to sort of look at doing something else. And Earth Mother is a great pivot because you've got an audience. Your audience is aging with you. You know, Gwyneth Paltrow's audience, they all want to they're like, I remember you from Royal Tenenbaums. That's right. And I want to buy all that
sliding
goop.
Doors, and now I want to steam my vulva, and you can help me. It's true. It has become a well-worn path that she's slotted into, and it's funny how I think we've talked on the show about this kind of East Coast Australian influencers who occupy that same space. They'll sell kind of a mixture of like stuff, like high-end homewares. And you know, like, I don't know, kind of expensive tablecloths and candles and things that you can use to sort of occupy that, pretend that you're living on Vancouver Island in an idyllic 100-year-old farm. But also they'll sell, seminars and things like that, which I suppose she would do if she was slightly lower profile. But as it is, she's able to fill out convention centers and sort of have these things with large audiences. I'm just having a look. Tickets range between maybe I'll go. Tickets range between $85 and $545. What do you get for that? Man, do you get to pose with her in your red bathing suit, maybe.
And what I'm just trying to think if I was sitting in front of Pamela Anderson and listening to her talk, what is she saying that's interesting to me? Maybe I'm just interested because maybe she does come across as being a bit interesting and smart, and I was like, man, I had no idea that you were like this, because used to steal Playboy magazines I just used to put a Playboy magazine in a newspaper and then buy the newspaper at the local news agency and hide it, and they would never know.
Get kicked out of the milk bar for being a pervert. But it's true. I mean, she does seem to, this is why I'm kind of torn as to whether I don't want to be duped. For a moment, I was quite touched by her romance with Liam Neeson, and now I'm burned. And now I'm thinking, I'd love it if you were into Jung and Dostoevsky and, the films of Kurosawa or whatever. But I just don't know, if you were, how you could stand to be in the company of Tommy Lee and Kid Rock for years of your life. What were they doing? I mean, maybe they are also closet intellectuals. I don't know. But
now the ultimate pivot would be to marry Kid Rock and just become just be in the White House with all the Trump weirdos. Just with like Eric and Barron and Kid Rock.
Maybe she could have an illicit age gap relationship with young Barron. That'd be a great third act, wouldn't it? The other thing, I guess, which I forgot to mention earlier, is that she did release another sex tape of her with Bret Michaels from Poison. Got released.
Oh.
I think it was less critically acclaimed. So I don't think I've seen it, and I'm not sure that there's much to see. It's pretty grainy. But
did she claim again that it had been stolen again from her house?
Maybe you should just not allow. Maybe when Brett said, "Should we film ourselves banging?" you should say, "No, I've done that before and it didn't work out very well." But anyway, that's what happened, and I did kind of think, once bitten, twice shy. Film me once, shame on you. So maybe, I mean, if I was at Pam,
film me once, 80s rock star, shame on you.
Exactly. Shame on crew. She. So when I go and see Wanderlust True North, Pamela Anderson live in conversation, I am going to say, do you think that there are any other? Are you worried that there are other tapes out there that haven't yet seen the light of day? And what drove you to allow Bret Michaels from Poison to film you two in compromising circumstances? And she would say, "No, I just want to talk to you about my French onion soup. I don't want to talk about that sort of thing."
It's just nothing. It's just nothing but there's just nothing out there but hundreds of sex tapes with 1980s hair metal lead singers, drummers, guitarists. Oh no, we didn't know she was with the lead singer of Warrant. Now she's with the lead singer of White Snake.
She's having a threesome with the ZZ Top guys. I mean, it's kind of weird too to imagine. I think it's more forgivable in this day and age to film sex acts, whereas in the 90s you really would have had to be like, just give me a couple of minutes to set up my tripod and my big clunky.
We just wait. Just you'd be ready to go, and you say, "Sorry, hon, I know this is going to kill the mood, but we need to wait 12 hours for the battery to recharge." Exactly. And then I have to rewind the tape, and also, like, camcorders were expensive.
Yeah, a lot of these hair metal guys were real hi-fi innovators. Not a lot of people know that.
I'd be very interested to see what the audience, the demo of those who's buying. I wonder if my parents would go, "Oh, we saw that Pamela Anderson was doing a speaking tour, and we thought we'd go and see her." Is that or is it? I expect it's women of our era, maybe a bit older than us.
I think it would
like
probably
like her age,
both older and younger. So women of her age, but also
who the fuck
younger women.
Like as you said,
who are like
younger women are familiar with Pamela Anderson.
I think they're familiar with now Pamela Anderson. I reckon the Pam and Tommy thing probably put her on the radar a little bit, and they're interested in this kind of reinvention arc. Obviously, they're interested in this sort of clean she's a kind of clean girl aesthetic, but for the older generation, a clean grandmother aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I love that she's got, I'll just check that I'm right about this, but I think she's got 2 children and that their names are Dylan and Brandon, which is very 90s in itself.
Yeah. I'm just looking here.
Yeah, Dylan.
She's got 5 million followers on Instagram, that's already like a career. You've got that's a lot of attention to be selling things to. And I'm just clicking through her profile, and there's like skincare routines with products.
Yeah.
It says she's used it's Sonsi Skin and Pamela Anderson. Skin nourished with super serum, skin barrier supported and repaired with Adapt cream, skin hydrated with multi-moisture cream, lips softened with basic balm. I feel like this would be difficult for Liam Neeson to shift those products if he was doing the same routine.
It's true.
Hello there. It's me with Sonsi Skin. I have a very particular set of skin challenges.
Yeah, I have a very particular set of skills. I can clear your pores. I can get rid of fine lines and wrinkles.
So, I mean, it is lucrative if you just have a profile, and I mean, it goes both for men and women and social media these days. Like, let's say that you were famous for something years ago.
Yeah.
In the case of Pamela Anderson, she was this blonde bombshell, and now she can just sort of ease into, I'm 58, and I have 5 million followers on Instagram. Okay, I'm going to go for wellness, skincare, furniture, lifestyle, mother. Yeah. And maybe this Sonsi Skin is that company. I mean, that would make sense that this Sonsi Skin is that company that she bought with her sons.
Yeah, I think it is.
But yeah, I mean, this is the clever thing that you can do is there's a band of ways that you can monetize with social media, and makeup and skincare products is one of them. Men, you just like Liam Neeson needs to start. He needs to sell courses about how you can
martial arts. You could do that.
He needs to start his own manosphere community, Liam Neeson, where he just talks about how to make money online and how to manipulate women and so that they will just be with you, and how you need to make sure that they're obedient. That's exactly. Liam Neeson's pivot.
Just Liam just kind of frame-mogging people, brutally frame-mogging men of his own vintage. He's the sort of the kind of thinking man's look maxer. That'd be. I'd be up for that.
I just love one of the top comments on her post where she's shilling skincare, and one of the top posts has just written, "I love your routine. I love this skincare routine, which I love." Somebody's just gone. She put on 4 products, and somebody's gone, "I love this routine," and I'm like, against what other routine? I just somebody else put their serum on in the wrong order this morning, and I commented, "I hate your skincare routine." And I popped over here and I wrote to you, Pam, and I wrote, "I love your skincare routine."
And then a third one, "This routine's okay." It's just, then they're done with the internet for the day.
Routine.
This is a mediocre. This is a so-so routine. I'm just having a look. I'm asking ChatGPT list a bunch of celebrities who, like Gwyneth Paltrow, have pivoted from acting to marketing, basically. I guess that's one way to put it. But I'm interested in who is doing that. What men are doing that. Okay, yeah. Ryan Reynolds has done a bit of it, of course. George Clooney's done a bit of it. That's true.
Are you talking about skincare and makeup, or are you talking about just pivoting to
pivoting to like product endorsement and self-branding as a
I think Ryan Reynolds bought a mobile phone company called Mint, and then I think sold that for he got involved. I think what typically happens is those companies find a person like Ryan Reynolds and go, "You be the face of the mobile phone company. We'll give you a cut," and just like drop the mobile phone company in junkets about your latest Deadpool film, and then you can just have an exit for $1 billion.
Yeah. And of course, then you got Clooney, who sort of does, spirits and also Nespresso. Ashton Kutcher, it reckons. I wouldn't buy anything that he was selling me. Of course, you got Mark Wahlberg in there, and we've talked about him before as the Stay Prayed Up. The face of Stay Prayed Up. And then, of course, Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump, who started as TV stars and then became spooks for the Republican Party.
They've did the presidential pivot. It's a tough pivot, and there's not that many opportunities, but they've both managed to do it.
I think Pamela
went
Anderson
from
2028. Move over Gavin Newsom.
You know who's absolutely going to fix America? Pamela Anderson. Well, John, I've absolutely loved hearing about Pamela Anderson, and I can't wait for you to get down to that show.
Should do it. Should pay top dollar for the top tier ticket, get a backstage pass, and get a one-on-one interview with Pamela Anderson, in which I will ask her all about plot holes in the movie Barbed Wire.
Beautiful. And everybody, if you would like to lay eyes on me and John, some people don't know that we actually record all these episodes and put them on YouTube. So you can find the YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and you find Don't Praise the Machine, it would be great if you found us and gave us a little sub.
Yeah.
It'd be great if we saw a couple of new subs come in. So if you've got your phone with you at the moment and you've got the YouTube app, it's absolute easy step to just go, I'll just pop over to my YouTube app. I'll just put in Don't Praise the Machine. Up we come, click subscribe, and then we'll see the numbers go up. And that'd be a great little bump this week. Absolutely makes our week.
It's one of the things my doctor has recommended to me as a low risk high. Just, he says, go on to the apps.
YouTube Studio.
Go to YouTube Studio and just see the subscriber count rising. Good for you.
Good for your blood pressure.
Good for your blood pressure.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. And we can't wait to see you next week.
The podcast.